Hola, Taina. It's great to have you back at our festival again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Uh, would you like to say something about what inspired your music?
Yeah, this song Resiliencia that I shared is the title track of my most recent album. Resiliencia, as you know, means resilience. And this song was written about 4 months after visiting Puerto Rico after hurricanes Irma and Maria hit the island of Puerto Rico. And there I interviewed 4 women artists and activists about their stories of resilience in the midst of and in the aftermath of the storm. And so the song that I created is a song, and it's also the music to a documentary that I created about my experience there. And for me, the messages that it brings through their words and their wisdom and their teachings is so related to and necessary for what we are going through right now in surviving this pandemic and in the struggle for liberation today. So.
Fantastic. And I really enjoyed your work both this year and last year. So you describe yourself as both an artist and an activist, right? Can you talk a little bit about how you see these two things intersecting?
Yeah, I have been involved in both for a good chunk of my life. I started singing in a punk band in my teens. And at that time, it was sort of one and the same to singing truth to power through my music was something that was a part of the sort of the culture of the punk scene at the time, and it was also my entryway into activism. And so that was in terms of my introduction. But as I started to look deeper into my family's history and in the history of music and social change, I started to realize that the culture that I was raised with, I'm Puerto Rican, and my parents were keepers of our Afro Puerto Rican folkloric traditions like bomba. And to me, I started to understand that music for us, art for us, poetry has always been a powerful form of liberation. It's always gone hand in hand as a way to reclaim our humanity in the face of inhumanity, as a way to reclaim our cultural and spiritual traditions, and as a time to organize with one another for our liberation. So this was something that was passed on to me, and it's for me it's manifested in various musical forms, but it's a part of that lineage that I carry with me. And I would say that most of us, if we look at our own ancestries, we can see examples of art being used to fight for justice, to reclaim our humanity, and to call out for a better world. And so that to me is something that is inherent to the music that I create. And of course, I'm a part of social justice movements in a various ways. So I bring my music to the movements that I'm a part of, and then those movements feed and inform the music that I create.
So I just want to build on that a little bit. You're a woman and you're an activist and you're Puerto Rican, and our traditions are usually male dominated, right? Like the Latino communities, like it's very big patriarchy. And so as a woman and activist, doing this work, um, how does that translate for you? Like, tell me about that. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. Well, again, looking back to that tradition that I was speaking of earlier, my mom was the one who really held that tradition strong, the bomba tradition, where,
Mhm.
she as a woman was centered in this really powerful way. Um, and I think back to my grandmother and the way that she would center her poetry in our family. I come from a long lineage of really powerful women who are keepers of our cultural and spiritual and artistic traditions. And so, for me, it's something that's inherent to, how I came into this world. But, as somebody who has experienced the oppression of being a woman and being a Latina, for me, that music has been a powerful way for me to speak my truth to power. And particularly in my younger years, it was such an important way for me to reclaim my power, the love of my body, to talk about the experiences that I had gone through as a woman who is a survivor of sexual assault, who has to endure regularly sexual harassment. So this was, my coming into music was about me healing and reclaiming my power as a woman, as a Latina. And it continues today as I create bridges and connections with folks. Most recently, I had the opportunity to work with an organization called 1 Billion Rising. It's an organization that works to end violence against women and girls around the world. And I created an anthem for this organization called We Are Rising. And this anthem has been danced to by people all over the world that are working to end violence against women and girls in various ways that manifests in the various parts of the world where they are at. And it's been a real honor to be able to offer my music. And when I was writing the song, I had to think about not just my own perspective as a Latina that is born and raised in the US, but also think about, from a global perspective, the various angles of struggle and liberation work that are happening throughout the world, and try and fold that into this song. So, that's what I seek to do, just to use my work to help in that movement for liberation.
We came up with our theme, Art for Urgent Times, early last year. And coincidentally, it fits right in with what's happening now and what we're seeing on our screens and what we're seeing in our streets, and what has really taken over our lives in this time. How is your work informing and responding to what you see as this great movement with Black Lives Matter? Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. I think that for me as a Afro-Puerto Rican woman, as a Black Latina woman, I've been writing songs about my liberation and about my community's liberation in various forms. So throughout, my career. So it's been important for me to look back at some of those songs and see how I can offer them to our communities today that are working for liberation, for Black lives. I'm thinking about my song Freedom that I wrote about ending mass incarceration and state violence. I'm thinking about the song For Our Children, which I wrote after the murder of Trayvon Martin. For me, I have a whole, backlog of songs to pull from to help myself and to offer to our movement right now. And I'm also thinking about what I want to create moving forward. What's being called to me to share in this time. So for Red Hook, I wanted to share Resiliencia because it was so important to me that that I bring those teachings with me into today. And then I also shared No es mi presidente because we're at a critical time in our in these elections and in terms of, so let me back up and say that No es mi presidente is actually not about an individual, but it's actually a song that I wrote in 2017 to remind us of this powerful legacy that we carry, this liberation struggle that we carry, that's been passed to us, and all the different tools that we have at our fingertips to use. And so if you watch the video, you'll see some examples of different ways that that is demonstrated in the music video. But in the song, which is bilingual, you'll hear different messages of that.
Right.
And so for me, it's about, I wanted to continue to remind us of that as we move forward into this next phase of struggle.
Beautiful. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for bringing your light and energy to us. It's always so powerful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It's a blessing to be here. Thank you.
Taina, are there any last thoughts you'd like to share with the people? The whole world's watching.
No pressure. No pressure.
The world, go.
I do have. I want to remind us that creativity isn't something that is just special to me as an artist with that capital A, but creativity is our human birthright. And it's something that we all carry within us. And now more than ever, we need to exercise this gift that we all carry within us to think creatively about solutions to the world's problems, to think creatively about the world we wish to have, to envision the world we wish to have, and figure out how to take steps to make that happen. So I just want to remind us to use that creativity. Creativity isn't just for product, it's also for process, and it's a gift that we all carry and can use and tap into to survive and to heal and to uplift and to liberate.
Great words.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Peace, love, and liberation.